Good morning, traders. Welcome to the live stream. My name is Charles Gough. I come from a community called Pirate Traders, where we are focused on the ES, the NQ, and how they move through the two-way auction process. Let me know in the chat if you can see me and hear me okay. If you are watching this from the Bookmap Discord, you can head on over to the English Traders floor, and you can leave your questions or comments there, and I'd be happy to respond. If you are watching this in the YouTube, obviously you're going to leave your comments in the YouTube, and I'll do my best to respond there. So FYI, before we get into it today, I am flying completely blind today. And why do I say that? Because my window trader won't open right now. The market profile software that I use, my data feed has an error because I updated my BIOS over the weekend on my computer. And so now I can't connect to my data feed. And I realized it about 5 minutes before I had to go live here in front of you guys. So unfortunately, I can't do my full stream that I would normally do. I can't talk about market profile because I don't have access to it. So we're going to be flying a little bit blind here today. I actually think it's a great exercise for using Bookmap, essentially replacing what I would normally see on the market profile chart by looking at Bookmap, but it just means I won't be able to do my full analysis that I would normally do, have all the same key levels I would normally have. I just don't have access. So if I wasn't a live streamer, if I was just a trader, I would have woken up this morning and I would have said to myself, let me take the day off. Let me focus on reaching out to IQ Feed, taking care of this issue, making sure that my data is up and running properly and that I've got everything in place. Then I would sit down to start trading. But when you're a live streamer, you got to go with the flow and just, do what you can with what you have. Okay. So what's the main thing that we're thinking about in the market as of late? We have been stuck in what we call a weekly balance area. So for weeks and weeks and weeks, this market has just been going sideways. Okay. And the problem with a balance area like this is that it's incredibly difficult to trade intraday, right? Because if you have balance on a daily basis, that's fine for intraday. You know where the key levels are, you know where changes in balance will take place, so that's fine. But when you have balance on a weekly basis, it means you can have a couple of days, maybe even an entire week where the market is really doing nothing, and it's very confusing. And that is what we've had the last few weeks. So if we just rewind the tape a little bit, we were grinding around that larger balance area high for, the first part of a week. Then we had a massive sell-off. This was 2 Thursdays ago. We had a massive sell-off to the downside, and then we immediately started to balance once again. We immediately started to just go sideways. And all week last week, that's all we did. It may have felt like we were getting ready to break higher. It may have felt like we were getting ready to break lower. But the truth is, all we did was stay pinned. All we did was go sideways. Okay. And that's an important nuance because several things happened last week that should free this market up to make a move. The first is the VIX expiring. The second, the VIX options. The second is the monthly options expiring, which expired on Friday. And last is a major piece of new information, right? When the market becomes range bound, when it's just grinding around in one place, it's generally because it's just waiting for something new, some sort of new inciting incident to get the market moving once again. And we finally had that on Friday as well with the Supreme Court overturning Trump's tariffs. Now, nobody seems to know what this is going to actually mean. So we aren't expecting a shock and awe type of move. The market needs to digest what he's going to do next and all of this type of stuff. But the long and the short of it is we should be free this week to break away from this pin. We should not stay stuck here for another week. And so that means we're either going to head up towards the all-time highs, or this market is going to head down and start making some new lows, go to levels we haven't been in months. Okay. One of those two should happen this week. And so that should lead us to a much more exciting week than last week. Hopefully, fingers crossed. So this week, all we can really do is ask ourselves the question, when are we ready to break? So there's two ways we could do it. We could literally just look at Friday's range and we could say, if we get above Friday's high, and we get new buying, we're breaking away to the upside. We get below Friday's low, we get new selling, we're breaking away to the downside. We could also just look at a weekly candle And we could just say, okay, what was last week's weekly high and weekly low? Now, that's obviously going to be a much bigger range, so you're more likely to use that if you're a swing trader. But to simply put, if this market gets above last week's weekly high, we're turning around and we're heading back up to those all-time highs. If we get all the way back down below last week's weekly low, we're going much further. So as a swing trader, if you wanted to wait until we tested the edge of that range, you could do so. But the point is, we should not spend another week inside. We should be able to finally make a move one way or another. Okay. Let's zoom in and take a look at the Bookmap here. Obviously, it's way too early to get any signals from Bookmap. We still got 20 minutes until the market opens. And because Bookmap is order flow software, nothing that happens prior to that open really matters once that opening bell rings. We're just going to be looking for changes that happen once that opening bell rings. But what we are looking for today, if the market is going to break, particularly if it's going to break higher, which is what my guess is, if it is going to break higher, what we're looking for is a combination of short covering and new buying. And again, I can't point to these things yet because they haven't happened, but as they're happening, I will be pointing to these things live on the chart. So just to give you a heads up of what we're looking for, the first thing we're going to be looking at is the volume dots. That's these little green and red dots that you see in here. And those volume dots are showing us the delta between buyers and sellers. So if it's a green dot, there was more buyers at that level at that moment. If there's a red dot, there was more sellers at that level at that moment. Why do we care? Because you only get a really big imbalance at certain moments. So if it is red, it's more sellers. If it's green, it's more buyers. If the larger it is, the larger the difference between the two. So what we're going to be watching for if the market starts to work its way higher today is, do we get these green dots at the upper ends? So as we poke above a previous high, do we start to see green dot, green dot, green dot as the market works its way up? If we are seeing that, we are seeing shorts cover. We're seeing people that were short getting out or getting stopped out of their trades. Okay. So if we get that, that's the first thing we're looking for as a sign the market could keep going up. But then the question is, can we take short covering and turn it into new buying? Here's an example of that right here. So as the market poked up above the previous high right there, we got a green dot. So that green dot was just short covering. And so the question that we're asking ourselves is, can we keep bringing in more buyers, or did we just poke up here to take out some stops and now we're going to reverse and head lower? Well, when we see these green dots down here, these dots are not as we're breaking a high. These are at the lows. This is after the market dipped. So we made that new high. We came in, convinced some people to go long. One more little dip, convinced some people to go long. Boom. Now we can go make a new high again. Okay. So that's the main thing we're going to be watching is, where are the large volume dots? Are they at the highs as we poke up and make a new high? And if they are, do we also get some when we dip back down? Because if you just take out stops, if that's all you're doing, if you're just going up, taking out sellers from last week, it won't keep going up forever. But if you take out sellers and bring in new buyers, well, then that momentum will shock you how far they can keep pushing it. So that's going to be what we're watching. We're also going to be watching the stops and icebergs. Again, we don't really have any good examples yet to point to, but as those point up, I will pop up. I will point out to them as well. Okay. Any questions for the pirate? So I'm marking some levels on my candlestick chart here. I'm marking the previous day's high, which is Friday's high, and Friday's low, and then I'm marking the overnight high and the overnight low. These are the key levels for today. So as the opening bell rings, unfortunately, anywhere inside this overnight range, it's just a chop zone. It could go up, it could go down, it could look like it's going to break higher and then completely reverse. Anything can happen inside of here. But if we get above the overnight high / the previous day's high, they're right next to each other, and we get new buying, great. We're bullish for continuation to the upside. If we get up there and we don't get new buying, well, then we're looking for it to turn around and come back down. Same thing with the overnight low. If we get below that overnight low, we get new selling. We're looking for continuation lower. If we look below and fail, we're looking to turn around and come back up. So it is a chop zone. It's a big one, but it's a chop zone between 68.67 and 69.30. And we just got to let them chop it up. Let them chop it up. Chop, 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 chop. Good morning to Laura. Welcome to you. Rich in the house. Mark is here. Mark says no email today. It did go out. It just went out late. But you should have got it by now. Viz in the house. Rich is here. The Anu. Good morning to you. Tom in the house. Frito is here. Frito says, you got snow by you. That's the other thing. So as if my problems with my data feeds this morning isn't enough, there's also a insane blizzard outside, and we already lost power earlier this morning, but it came right back. So yeah, that's the other thing I needed to mention, that we may lose power at any moment and we get disconnected. So there's a lot going on over here today. It's one of those mornings. But yeah, it's crazy. We had like so much snow, whatever, like a month or two ago. We had these huge snowstorms. And I thought, man,